Hey, everybody, welcome to TGC Radio. I'm your host, Jonathan, and joining me today is one of the contributing writers from our website, Dylan. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty good. Just trying to enjoy the inside right now while it's a little rainy outside.
It looked a little rainy out there. I haven't been outside today, but it did look a little rainy, so
Mm-hmm.
that's good. And there are three big stories we have from last week to talk about. And I think this first one here is probably the biggest one we have, which is that Microsoft officially acquired Bethesda last week. So that's pretty
Mm-hmm.
big. Um, because if you didn't know, I think everyone knows about how last year Microsoft started the process to acquire Bethesda's parent company, ZeniMax Media. But their acquisition wasn't official like legally until this past week. So now that they officially own ZeniMax and Bethesda, they own all the subsidiary studios and everything as well. So that's id Software, Machine Games, Bethesda Softworks, obviously. So they own all of these new IPs now: Doom, Fallout, Elder Scrolls, and yeah, it's insane. What do you think about that, Dylan? This whole acquisition.
I think it's pretty cool. It's a pretty big power move by them for sure to do that.
Hmm.
To have like the access of all the games that their parent company comes with, and all the future games that they come with. At least like the exclusivity of their games. And surely, one way or another, the games might eventually wind up on like PlayStation and Nintendo and those places. But it's kind of cool and it's pretty exciting for people who use like Game Pass. It's awesome to see that they're gonna get first dibs on a lot of these really great games that otherwise they wouldn't have had right off the bat day one. So that's something huge. Now personally, I'm a user of that subscription, and I was super excited when I heard about that last year because I figured the implications meant that they would bring in more games like that. So um, that was cool. And this week or this past week, they did exactly that when they did start adding them in, and that's pretty exciting. To get my hands on some of
Yeah,
those.
yeah. They added 20 new titles already, which stunned me. I'm
Mm-hmm.
on Game Pass too. I play on Xbox, and I I'm so stunned. I mean, immediately, like as soon as they were officially acquired, bam, 20 new titles on Xbox. We have Dishonored 1 and 2. We have a bunch of Doom games, including Doom Eternal. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
have Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4, Fallout 76, everyone's favorite Fallout game. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and we have a Morrowind, the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. I mean, of course, we have Skyrim. I mean, that's no
Yeah.
surprise there. But Morrowind and Oblivion, that's pretty awesome. And the Wolfenstein series, Wolfenstein: The New Order, The Old Blood,
Mm-hmm.
Young Blood. And for me personally, I'm such a huge fan of like a lot of these series, like Fallout, Wolfenstein, and Doom. So the fact that they're on Game Pass now, it makes me pretty happy that there's more people that can play them, especially like the classic Doom games, like Doom One and Doom Two. Although I wouldn't play them on a controller because I actually like downloaded that when they came out on Game Pass. I wanted to download Doom 2 on my Xbox to see how badly it played, and it was awful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I gotcha. I'm excited to try out some of them too, because being completely honest, I've only really tried a few of those games here and there. I've actually never made a full playthrough of Skyrim, so I'm gonna try to get that through on PC. I feel like it'll be a nicer experience. I've already played a little bit of it so far, and it looks nicer than
Mhm.
when I first played it like a little bit ago on a PS4 or PS3, one or the other. Um, so that's cool. And then given Elder Scrolls Online and like two of their expansions, I thought that was super sweet. Uh, considering I feel like for games like those, if you don't have those expansions or those extra things at this point in in their life cycle, you really can't do that much. And the Doom series as well. I'm excited to try those out too. The games that came in from there, because I've heard nothing but good things about those games. So
Oh yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
yeah. Doom 3, I actually think is incredibly underrated. So I'm glad that that's on there. And the thing that kind of shocks me is that Doom 2016 is not on Game Pass, but Doom Eternal is, which I guess makes sense because Doom Eternal is the most recent Doom game. But Doom 2016 is pretty much like the beginning of that saga for Doom, like the whole Doom Eternal storyline and gameplay. So it's kind of odd. Another game that is missing that I thought was weird is like Fallout 3. They have Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4, Fallout 76, but Fallout
Yeah,
3 is gone.
I know. Those are the Fallout games that I ended up starting with, so I was kind of a little bummed to not see them there, which it's weird,
Yeah.
especially including something like Fallout 76, which I'm not. It's not nearly as bad as it originally was, but that's not saying it's good now.
Yeah.
Um, but still, again that and Fallout 4, like I can see, yes, those are the most modern games, but that's kind of crazy how they cut them out. I'm sure they'll add them in the future
Oh
though,
yeah.
as little throwback picks.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'd be interested in is if they do add Fallout 3, would they include all the DLC with it too? That'd be interesting because Fallout 3 actually has like 5 different DLCs. Um,
Mm.
but and the other big thing about this acquisition is that Phil Spencer, which for anybody who doesn't know, Phil Spencer is pretty much the executive head for the Xbox brand at Microsoft. He's pretty much the one in charge of everything they do in their like gaming department. Uh, he pretty much confirmed that there are going to be future titles that will be exclusive to Xbox and PC. Like when this first
Mm.
got announced, they were trying to sort of uh, hold back on saying whether or not any games will be exclusive, but now they're sort of seeming to come out and be a lot more open about it and just say, yeah, no, we're actually going to have exclusives. Which I mean, like you mentioned earlier, it's a bold move for them against Sony because Sony, I think for years has just been really getting lots of good exclusives like God of War, Bloodborne, now Demon Souls on PlayStation 5,
Yeah.
and of course The Last of Us. That's another huge one. Uh, so
Hmm.
I think it's good that Microsoft is starting to at least add more titles to sort of compete with that because I mean before that the only thing I think they really had was like Halo, and Halo kind of died
Yeah,
off.
pretty much. I mean, Halo 4 what was like fine. It wasn't amazing. And Halo 5 was when it was like, things aren't going well. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's super huge for them, especially since their next Halo game isn't coming out for a bit. It got delayed. So
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, yeah, I think after Bungie left Halo, that was when it started to go downhill. I mean, because
Hmm.
the original creators left, so but maybe Halo Infinite will help bring Halo's name back a little bit
Hmm.
and now they have Halo in all these games to help sort of sell their console. So overall,
Yeah.
yeah, overall, uh, pretty exciting stuff for Xbox players. Um, and the last thing I will say is that it's good that there is still going to be like like a game series like the Elder Scrolls. I can't imagine that only being on Xbox. Right, that's always been like a very big PC game as well, so they have to bring it to PC and Xbox. So it's good that it's not
Hmm.
just exclusive to consoles. That would be kind of stupid. Um, and then the next big story that came out last week is Obsidian Entertainment, which, if you don't know who they are, they're developers for Fallout New Vegas and most recently The Outer Worlds, which is another action RPG that they developed. Um,
Uh-huh.
and they finally announced their next DLC. Uh,
Okay.
Yeah. Have you played The Outer Worlds, Dylan?
No, I've heard of it, but I haven't played it ever. So that is sounds pretty cool. Definitely exciting to always hear about new DLC for any game. I've
Mhm.
I've definitely seen people play it. I know I recognize the name. I'm just gonna Google it right now, just so I can get a visual look of
Yeah.
how it looks like. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I know this game.
Yeah, you probably remember all the trailers when it was announced from the makers of Fallout New Vegas. They had to make it very well known
Mhm.
that hey, that great game that everyone loves. Well, guess who's back?
Mhm.
Just like that.
Yeah.
So,
Oh boy.
I love the Outer Worlds. I've played through it all the way to the end. Um, I've also played their first DLC, Peril on Gorgon, which I actually
Mhm.
really loved. I loved the story for that DLC, and I think the choices you were able to make about how the story ended at the end of the DLC was very cool. It was a lot better, I think, than the ending of the actual main campaign. Um,
Okay.
yeah, the Outer Worlds is so good until the end. Like the very end of the game is where they kind of drop the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Without spoiling anything for anyone who hasn't played it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not. I don't want to spoil anything, but um, anyways, this next DLC, um, it's called Murder on Eridanos. I hope that's how you pronounce that planet's name. Um, I don't think it's basically a murder mystery, and you're going to this floating city that's sort of floating in the skies of the planet, and a famous celebrity, Halcyon Helen, has been murdered. So you're trying to solve her murder, which sounds awesome. I mean, this is a sounds like a pretty awesome DLC, and I don't think it has any connection to the first DLC just from these descriptions. Because have you played Fallout New Vegas?
When I was like, I had like a disc, and I remember playing it on a PC that took in like little discs for it, and
Oh, okay,
that was a while ago. Holy cow, that was
okay.
um
I was
definitely a good bit of time ago.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that what Obsidian did with Fallout New Vegas' DLC is that even though the stories were kind of independent, they all had like tangential connections to them. So like one
Hmm.
DLC could kind of lead into another, except for the first one. The first one was pretty self-contained, but the rest of them had like these connections, and then the final one, like it all came together, and they had this villain they'd been leading up to throughout the other DLCs. But I was gonna say, I was wondering if the Obsidian would do the same thing with the Outer Worlds, where the two DLCs are connected. But so far, based on the story descriptions, I don't think either one is that connected. So, and I say that because I'm wondering, for anyone who hasn't played the first DLC, I don't think you actually have to play the first DLC to play the second one. But who knows? I haven't actually played it myself yet. No one has.
Yeah. When
Be-
does it come out?
yeah, so it comes out on March 17th, and it looks pretty cool. I don't think there's. I've only seen the cinematic trailer, which is when
Hmm.
if you haven't seen that, it's basically the celebrity Halcyon Helen. She's like shooting a scene in a movie, and then I think someone
Hmm.
walks in on her and wait, no. She can't be shooting a scene in the movie. What am I talking about? She's in an office somewhere. The whole trailer started. I thought it was like supposed to be a movie, but anyway, someone just basically walks in and kills her, and you don't see who does. She just looks at
Yeah.
an open door and is like, "Oh no, it's you," and gets shot because of course. Um, but yeah, it looks pretty cool. Looks pretty awesome. Um, and then the other big story from last week is League of Legends Wild Rift is getting a North American beta. And Dylan, you're a fan of League of
Mhm.
Legends, right?
Yeah, I was actually keeping up with that last week because I remember they were making a tweet. They were like, blah, 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 blah. Like, this is why we haven't released it. They were saying things about how, like, the setting up their server. was for the Americas was supposed to be significantly harder than when they set up the servers for the Asia, Oceania region, Europe, and
Yeah.
all that stuff. And that was their explanation for why they kept pushing it out, because I think originally it was supposed to come out in December of 2020. That's when it was supposed to come out for the Americas, but they kept pushing it back. However, they did finally give out a release date. If I might have it mistaken, it's either the 25th or the 29th of March. That's just off the
29th.
top of my head, though. 29th. Okay, yeah. So 29th of March.
Hmm.
So that's pretty exciting. I pre-registered for it on Google Play way back when I had an Android. So
Yeah.
uh, I
Um,
don't have an Android now, so I don't know if as far as I'm concerned, I've checked on Apple. There isn't really like a pre-register button on their app store, but I'm assuming it's just going to be available for everyone like that day. It's going to pop up on the app store like some other games have. So that's pretty cool. I'll be following up for that for sure, and I'm excited to play it because it's League of Legends. So that's cool.
yeah. Um, I do know that it will be, from what I've read online, it will be available on the app stores for each platform on the 29th. So you
Mm-hmm.
should just be able to go into the app store and download it. Um, what
Okay.
Yeah, and what I was gonna ask you was, I personally have never even played League of Legends. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know much about League of Legends Wild Rift either. What exactly is it? Obviously it's a mobile game, but how different is Wild Rift from traditional like League of Legends?
So some of the key differences in Wild Rift and the normal PC League of Legends is that the champion pool is going to be, at least right now, it's significantly smaller.
Hmm.
I can't get the exact number. I want to say probably like 100 champs smaller than the actual pool and league. They keep adding champs here and there, and the reason being is they're having a lot of difficulty implementing some champions' abilities or some champions like movement and like tactics into the mobile format, because I mean you can only do things with like a joystick really. So
Right.
you think about that and you're like, well, I mean, that kind of makes sense almost like you really can't do all that much with just the phone. But even so, there are quite a few like other mobile MOBAs that they can follow. I know Mobile Legends and Arena of Valor are two really big ones made by. I think Arena of Valor is the one made by Tencent Gaming, which is like a pretty big company out of China,
Oh
if I'm
yeah,
not mistaken.
it's huge.
Um, and yeah,
They're scary.
they had like, yeah, they definitely have a lot. I know I used to play that game here and there because I was like, oh, it's like a mobile league game, and they would have these like partnerships with like DC and like these really big cool companies. I'd be like, wow,
Wow.
that is insane. But anyway, so those are other games that from what I've seen, like just the UI and like everything else, it looks very similar to those games because you really can't make it any more uh, like specialized per se, because you have four abilities and the four abilities should be somewhere convenient, which is for the most part on the right thumb side. And then
Yeah.
you want to have something you can move with, which is a joystick. I mean, that's just going to apply for most games that are like this. And as opposed to having the WASD, or not WASD, the mouse clicking, you just use a joystick on the left side. And then for like all the little summoner spells and other little abilities for items, they kind of just have them layered throughout your screen, with either on the top, on the bottom, right by your other abilities. And it like I like what they've done. It doesn't look cluttered enough that like you feel like you're gonna just bump into one ability by clicking another. And I do know that for some champions, like I know this probably doesn't mean too much for you since you haven't played it, but for certain champions,
Mm.
they did change their abilities, which is pretty cool to see how they were able to like remodel some of them. Like there's one
That's
champion that normally just rolls into people and like
yeah.
does like these cool things, but instead of that, he jumps into people to make it easier on like just aiming for one spot. So it's like it's pretty cool how they change things like that.
Yeah. I uh I definitely think what you talk about is interesting. It's a completely different hardware from PC, like
Yeah.
completely different. And when you think of mobile games, you're so limited in what you can actually do with controls because there's so few like inputs. Compared to a keyboard and mouse, you just have the screen. You have to find a way to make it, like you said, very comfortable for people. Because if it's too cumbersome to use and even play the game, no one's going to play it. Um, but what I actually think is most interesting is you were talking about how they changed the kits for some of the legends for Wild Rift. Do you think it'd be interesting if maybe one change they do people really like in Wild Rift, they may go into the PC version of the game and change it to that as well? You think that could ever
Yeah,
happen?
I feel like that could happen for sure. Primarily just because of the fact that like most of the changes done to the mobile version are done to like almost simplify abilities and to like to say that like they surely they can make the more complex version of an ability on PC into simpler ability. But the only like argument against I could see for that is maybe on the competitive scene because like
Hmm.
frankly it would be like really silly to say that the competitive scene on Wild Rift is going to be far greater than or maybe even equal to the competitive scene on
Yeah.
PC League. The PC League is like really established, and how many truly very skilled league players are going to drop PC League to jump into mobile league and be competitive at that? Surely there'll be some that are like maybe high tiers, like maybe not like the highest tier, but in like the top 20% or so of players. Maybe some of those people might start dropping in, trickling in, and populating the top half of or the top percent of Wild Rift,
Hmm.
but it won't be nearly as competitive. So the reason why I'm saying that is because it'd be like I feel like if they did try to bring an oversimplified, like maybe easier to use ability, especially if it's like a champion's ultimate ability of some sort, and to put that into PC, it might just be hard to balance that
It would
just
break the
because like
balance. Yeah.
exact because there's so many more things that you can do at like such a better response and like reflect like all the reflex and all the cool things you can do on a keyboard and mouse that like maybe you can kind of do on a phone, but it's like either really hard or you just can't do it all. And that's why those alter things or those changes for those abilities are there. So
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about that, of course. Um, but I think it depends on the champion ultimately. Like if the ability change is like really busted, like if you were using a keyboard and mouse, then that might be something they're like, we don't take this in. But if
Yeah.
it's just like an ability change that's like cool and doesn't really change like how the character performs anywhere, it's just a different type of move or something, a
Yeah.
different type of utility. I could see that definitely going in.
Yeah. I think you're talking about how right now it's most of the legends that are in Wild Rift are just from PC League of Legends with some maybe ability tweaks for mobile and all that. I think it would be cool if maybe this game gets big enough, like it starts to become very popular.
Mm-hmm.
Riot Games could maybe start adding exclusive legends to Wild Rift. Um,
Mm.
or and right now, are there any? Do you know if there are any like exclusive maps that are only in Wild Rift?
Uh, I I could be wrong about this, but I think the map is like slightly modified for higher paced games in Wild Rift. So it's like the original map, but maybe it's like down a tower, which towers like little things you have to fight for to get
Oh,
to the end. And that's just for the simple fact of like, of course, you don't really want to sit like if it's a mobile
yeah,
game, you don't want to sit there and play for 30 minutes on average. You probably want to play like 15, 20 minutes on an average match. So the map should be a little smaller just so that way the games don't drag on nearly as long.
yeah.
But that's just I think that's how it is. I know most of the other mobile MOBAs, that's how they're set up. They're like very similar to League, almost rip off similar.
Yeah.
But they're like usually just like 15 to 20-minute matches just from my experience. I mean like sometimes even shorter, like on average they could be if you're on a roll you could have matches that are like 10 minutes like three in a row just 10-minute matches. That's how fast they can be, which
Yeah.
I think maybe they'll probably like boost how fast you level up, how fast you get gold and things like that, just so it does have that mobile game feel where you're not spending all of that time on your phone.
Right, yeah. Because when I asked you about that, you started talking about how they made the map smaller. I was like, oh, of course, because no one wants to sit there and play forever when it's a mobile game. Exactly like you said. So that's
Hmm.
definitely a good point. I never thought about when you translate a game like League onto mobile, what all has to be changed, you know, to accomplish that. So it's definitely really interesting to
Yeah.
think about. Um,
Hmm.
and it'll be interesting to see a game like well, what was that Diablo mobile game that Blizzard said they were working
Oh,
on?
yeah. Did that ever come out?
I don't know. I just remember everybody being so
It was.
upset.
Oh my! I've seen that clip too many times where they release it and they're like expecting people to be excited. They're like genuinely hyped up about the release, which obviously there's always like a ton of work that goes into every game, but
Of course.
it's just like I don't know if that was the right. I don't know if they were looking for the right thing there. Like they expected there to be a big response, but it was like, I mean, come on, you got to be a little realistic when you're releasing
Yeah.
things like that.
I think they should have, because they didn't announce Diablo 4 by then, right? That wasn't announced yet. That was announced after, I think.
Yeah.
So, but they probably should have done is maybe just announced, hey, Diablo 4 is coming, and then also release the trailer for that. Maybe then it would have been easier to stomach. Um, but hey, now we have the Diablo 2 remake coming, so I know a lot of people are excited for that. So that maybe that makes up for it. They kind of came back, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
are you a
I
Diablo
think
fan?
for sure. No, I know my siblings they've played the series a good bit, so I'd
Oh, okay.
sometimes catch them playing it, but that's really about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, it was really nice to hear your thoughts about League of Legends because I never played it and I've never actually talked to anybody who has played it in depth. So that was really interesting to hear. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I think those were all the stories we had from last week. So,
All right.
yep, we can go ahead and wrap up this episode of TGC Radio. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.